Hello and welcome to the Solano College Sports Network. We are in studio for our second edition of the 2022-2023 NFL show. Garrison Glenn, Blake Molina, I'm Cameron Anderson, and we are here to break down some surprising and disappointing teams so far, along with going over some breakout players through the first month of the season, of course. So Garrison, start us off with some surprising good teams so far.
Okay, so I'm going to go 3 through 1, and my third surprising team is the Eagles. I was not expecting them to be this good. I went into the offseason thinking that they would be pretty solid, and then when they got A.J. Brown, I felt like they could go places, and they surely have done that. They're 4-0 right now, and I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. The only concern I have really is Jalen Hurts' longevity and to see how reliable he is throughout the season. We'll see. Then my second team would be the Jags. I know they're 2-2 right now, but it's kind of that their record kind of doesn't really reflect what the team has been able to do. I feel like they're better than just 2-2. I'm very surprised. I don't really trust Trevor Lawrence, but he's proving me wrong right now. And Agnew is playing very well as well. So I'm pretty happy about the Jags. And then the Dolphins are number 1 for me. I was not expecting the Dolphins to go off this much of a head start, and I did not trust Tua very much, and so he's proven me wrong very much. Same with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, both being that dynamic duo that they can be. And I'm just a little concerned about the QB situation, obviously, with Tua's head injury, to see how long it takes him to get back. So those are my 3 surprising teams: the Dolphins, Jags, and the Eagles.
I like the Jaguars. That's actually a sneaky good one. I'm going to switch it up. I do have the Dolphins and the Eagles on my list, just different spots. My number 3, though, is kind of a weird one. I'm going to throw the New York Giants in there. They are 3-1, surprisingly, and I didn't think they were until I really dug in with the research. Jones and Tyrod got hurt this weekend. They had a lot of injuries with their already banged up with their wide receiver room. Kadarius Toney, Robinson, and then they lost Kenny Golladay, who's been just kind of stealing money anyways. But so they're down 3 guys, and I mean they had to throw Slayton in there, who was like wide receiver 5.
Right. And Saquon was running the Wildcat.
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing good, and the new coach has them playing tough on both sides of the ball. He comes from Buffalo, so he knows kind of what he's doing. My number 2 is the Dolphins. I am a Tua believer. 469 yards and 6 touchdowns against the Ravens, though. I would have never guessed that.
No, that game was insane.
That was crazy. And they're also 2-0 in their conference, division, which they usually don't do too well in. But I think the offense is going to be really good. Mike McDaniel coming from the Niners, he's going to – I think Tua gets a little healthier, as the time goes on with the head injury that happened recently. I mean, easily top 5 offense, potentially even higher. Yeah. Even higher. And my number 1 for me is the Eagles. I did not think anything of them. A.J. Brown, great acquisition, I agree. Yeah. Could have took him places. You're telling me, though, the Eagles would have been 4-0 and Jalen Hurts looks like the runaway MVP right now?
Right.
I would have said you're crazy. And NFC, they're the top team.
Oh, yes, they're the best team in NFC.
I don't see too many.
NFC's pretty weak this year so far. Yeah.
I don't see anybody challenging right now. As of right now, I mean, we kind of thought the Rams, the Niners looked.
I thought the Niners would challenge them.
The Niners, the Rams were probably the only couple other teams. But yeah, the Eagles just kind of, I think, took everybody by surprise. And they're the only undefeated team in the league right now at 4-0.
It's true. I think I have a very similar list. I have the Jags at number 3.
Okay.
I think although they just suffered their second loss against the Eagles, I think they're one of the safer bets to be legit this year, which is very surprising. They've had back-to-back number 1 picks. Obviously, last year was a disaster with Urban Myers. That was awful.
Kicking the kicker?
Yeah, exactly. Kicking the kicker. Trevor Lawrence is taking a huge leap, which I wasn't really expecting. He's shown flashes, but I feel a little like I disrespect him a little bit going into the season.
Me too.
James Robinson has come back quickly off that injury in almost like record speed, and he's already top 10 in a lot of stats. So I have the Jags at 3, although they're only 2-2. That division is wide open. At number 2, I have the Dolphins. Who are 3-1. Mike McDaniel and his offense has been electric to watch. I think we crowned the Bengals as the best weapon room in the NFL before the season, but I mean, Waddle and Tyreek are quickly taking that. Gesicki's having a really good year.
I like Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds has been good.
Catchback,
good running back, and they have Mostert still. Well, not still. They just got him. But yeah, Tyreek and Waddle have combined for 880 scrimmage yards so far. They're both top 5 in receiving yards. Tua has been exceptional when healthy. He's first in passer rating with 109.9, in front of Patrick Mahomes at 108.4, and he's third in completion percentage at 70%. So he's been phenomenal so far. And at number 1, I think there's no doubt it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I had assumed they were going to win their division because the NFC East going in was really weak, but they have 2 3-1 teams with the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles at 4-0. So technically, they have the best division in football right now, which is no one would have expected that.
Because that was the worst. That was
Right.
the worst one.
Yeah.
Yep. I had
Not the worst.
it,
There's another one. We'll get into that another time.
Jalen Hurts. I have him in all my fantasy teams. He's making a great campaign so far. He's first in passing yards per attempt at 9.1, third in rushing touchdowns in all of the NFL, not just quarterbacks, with 4. He's second in total offensive yards with 1,286, only behind Josh Allen. A.J. Brown, third in receiving yards. He's been a monster. Clearly a difference maker. Devonta Smith, second-year leap. He had that one breakout week. The Eagles are fourth in points scored at 28.8 points per game, and the defense is ninth in points allowed. So overall, they're really good. And just the fact that the NFC East has 2 3-1 teams and a 4-0 team is pretty wild. We'll see how that pans out. The Cowboys and the Giants might be a little bit of fool's gold so far.
That Eagles secondary is crazy.
It is.
Their cornerback room over the offseason, crazy.
Yeah. So those are my 3, the 3 teams. Seems like we all have the same teams,
We all have
basically.
Yeah, pretty
just different
much.
spots.
Yeah,
spots.
different spots. But, I mean, those are, I had the Cowboys, like I said, just out of the edge with the Giants. Yeah. All right, and so after the break, we'll be right back with our most disappointing teams, and we'll catch you. You got to stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Eric Visser. I'm in my 5th year as the athletic director of Solano College. To experience community college and its mission has been an outstanding experience. Solano College has a very rich tradition in intercollegiate athletics dating back to 1947. I'm very proud to communicate that rich tradition is still being continued with fine young men and women that represent Solano College on and off the court. In the fall we have the volleyball program. We have a very successful women's soccer program. We have both men's and women's basketball. And then we transition to 4 programs: baseball, of softball, men's women's tennis, and men's and women's swimming. It is our mission to excel our programs and our student athletes in academics. All of our student athletes are committed to give back to the community. And we would invite you to be a part of Solano College Athletics by visiting our website www.solanoathletics.com, and you feel a warm welcome at Solano.
Welcome back to the Solano College Sports Network for our second edition of the 2022-2023 NFL show. Garrison Glenn, Blake Molina, I'm Cameron Anderson, and we're here. Now we're going to go over our most disappointing teams. So Blake, start us off.
Number 3, I have the Colts. I was very high on the Colts. I thought Matt Ryan was kind of that missing piece. And they're 1-2-1, tied with the worst. They tied a game with the worst team in the league, in my opinion, the Texans. They're riding a 1-game losing streak, 0-2 in the division. They're an easy fix, though. I feel like they have the roster where they're like maybe a player away, and I think they just need to do things. The Frank Reich era needs to end. It's been overhyped, overrated, and has shown nothing. It needs to end. Whether it's in the next couple weeks that they lose or at the end of the season, it needs to end by the end of the season. And number 2, it's time to get rid of the ghost. It's time to go draft a new quarterback. They're living in the past with Andrew Luck, and they've been doing this veteran thing the last 3 years. Ryan, Wentz, Rivers. No disrespect to Rivers and Ryan, but I mean, it's
they
not
tried
getting it done.
Brissett had a good few week run, but
he's not that good.
It's time to give up the ghost, maybe suck a year or 2, draft a quarterback within that first round or even the later second round, but it's time to start developing. It's time to ditch the vets.
I agree.
Oh, this one pains me. Number 2, I have the Chargers. I thought on paper they were probably the best team in the whole league. They're 1-1 in their division, 2-2 on. I mean, they're 2-2. They're 500, I guess. Defense is not holding up. Is J.C. Jackson worth all that money? Is Khalil Mack, that trade? I thought it was good. I thought but as of right now,
no.
That defense ain't holding up. Keenan Allen's been out too. I don't really think that's taken a big hit on the offense though. But And let's go to number 1. You guys are going to get on me. I have the Denver Broncos. I was very high on the Broncos. I told you guys I had them winning the division. I'm mostly blaming it on the coach. I think the coach is way over his head. I don't think he should have got that job.
Yeah.
When you hire a senior advisor in your first couple weeks, it's a smart move because you're struggling, but at the same time, it's a bad look for you. You know, it's just the truth. It really is. Injuries have been getting them too.
Yeah.
And, you know, their running back room, real disappointment this year with the fumbling and losing Javonte Williams.
Yep.
So I'm expecting them, though, to bounce back. They are the team, and the Chargers too, but I think they'll have a bigger bounce back once Russ and the coach figure it out. But, yeah, I have the Broncos as my number 1 right now.
All right. And for me, number 3 for the most disappointing team is the Steelers. I was not expecting them to be 1-3 right now. I thought that at least like 2-2, maybe 3-1. Mainly due in part because of the defense. I had a lot of faith in Minka Fitzpatrick, Casey Hayward, and you know a few other players.
TJ Watt,
like, and then he got out. He's out for what?
probably a few weeks.
A few weeks or something. Yeah, I thought that defense would carry them further than they have. And then the quarterback situation with Trubisky, I knew Trubisky wasn't going to do much. And now they had Kenny Pickett. They just kind of just threw him in there, and so I wasn't expecting him to do much off of last week. But yeah, the Steelers game. I mean, because they beat the Bengals as good as they did, and I was like, okay, oh wow, shock the Bengals, and then they just went downhill from there. And then that brings me to my second one, which is the Broncos. I agree with you on the Nathaniel Hackett, because they went into the first game of the season. They went to Seattle, and I thought it's gonna be interesting if Russell were to lose this game because all of the hype and everything, and they did lose. I
thought it was an easy win.
I thought it was an easy win as well, and so when they lost that game, I was like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And then they kept losing and then losing and then losing again. So hopefully they can fix it. We'll see what happens. I do like Russell Wilson in that position. I think he can do it. I just don't know if they're going to. And then my number 1 is the Raiders. The Raiders are 1-4 and could easily been 1-3. 1-3. Sorry, they could have been easily 0-4. And the loss to Arizona really just like showed me that they're not the same team that they were all hyped up to be over the offseason. The whole AFC West, with the exception of the Chiefs, really.
Right.
I feel like
and the Chiefs are probably the most slept on going in because they didn't do much in the offseason.
I thought the Chiefs.
Well, they did the least in the offseason.
Yeah, they did the least, and they
didn't have to do much, I guess.
I don't know. The Derek Carr to Devontae Adams connection has not really worked.
Right.
And I just don't know if it's going to. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's who I have: Raiders, Broncos, and Steelers.
Well, going off your Raiders, I have the Raiders at number 3. I had them pretty high on my list. Actually, not pretty high. I had them 5th, and I snubbed the Chiefs from this list. The Raiders have been on the wrong side of some really close games so far. They lost to the Cardinals on a last-second drive to Kyler Murray, converting on 4th down in the red zone, and then he scrambled in for the 2-point conversion. And then Byron Murphy obviously picked up that fumble from Hunter Renfrow, took it to the house. That was a huge loss. The defense has been pretty bad. They're allowing 25 points per game, and opposing teams are 70% in the red zone, which is alarming.
Wow.
And the offense, on the other hand, is 44% in the red zone. Derek Carr's putting up decent numbers so far. He's top 10 in passing yards, touchdowns, and QBR, but it really hasn't been enough. And I think the biggest worry with the Raiders is the subpar defense in an offensive powerhouse of a division with the Chargers and the Chiefs. And even the Broncos if they can get it rolling. And obviously the loaded AFC. The AFC is just really good this year, and I think it's going to halt the Raiders from a potential playoff push.
Who was their big defensive signing?
Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
He hasn't done much.
Yeah.
Rocky Sin's been injured, who they traded.
Crosby hasn't been doing much either.
Yep.
I was very surprised at that one.
Yeah.
I like Max Crosby.
And so at number 2, I have the Denver Broncos. So far, Russell Wilson has not been the equestrian that the Broncos have hoped for. He is not riding very well right now. He has a less than impressive 44.7 QBR and is 22nd among quarterbacks in touchdowns. The offense is ranked 30th in the NFL. And lead back Javonte Williams just tore his ACL, so he's going to be out for the season. Luckily, they have Melvin Gordon, who's a good second option. But we'll see.
Not giving away interceptions like that.
Yeah, they're going to have Mike Boone as the backup running back, so I don't think they're going to split as many carries as they did before. Judy has been quiet.
Yeah, that's surprising to me.
Hasn't been very good after the injury-riddled rookie year. Courtland Sutton has been impressive. Yes. He's been Russ's number 1 option. and could be in for a 1,000-yard season and maybe double-digit touchdowns. We'll see. But I think the biggest hope for the Broncos is the defense. The defense has been phenomenal. They're top 5 in points per game allowed, and Pat Surtain has been a star in the making. I mean, one of the best corners, locking down elite receivers week after week. So that's the bright spot for the Broncos. But at number 1, most disappointing teams, it's the Indianapolis Colts. I had them, I think, 3rd in the AFC.
Yeah, you did.
Looking back, does not look great at all. But on paper, I mean, you could kind of see where I was coming from. They had 7 Pro Bowlers last year, which was the most in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor coming off of a spectacular season. But I agree, Frank Reich's Colts, they've been tough to watch. His offensive game plan has not been good. Matt Ryan's throwing the ball too much. They're not running enough at the beginning of the game. And Jonathan Taylor hasn't been great. The offensive line has been abysmal, which is the biggest surprise to me because we know Quentin Nelson, we know the rest of the offensive line has been great, but they just haven't been good so far. And tying with the 0-3-1 Texans in the first game of the season was just a really bad look. I think they tied 24-24 and they blew that game. And then they got shut out by the Jaguars. Matt Ryan has looked like a less athletic Carson Wentz, really. He has 9 fumbles and 5 interceptions through just 4 games. So really, like, how much is that his fault? Is it the receiving core that's been kind of weak? Pittman's been banged up. Is it the offensive line? Or maybe it's a mix of all 3. So we'll have to see. The defense hasn't been great either, which has been really surprising because on paper, with getting Gilmore, that D-line with Buckner, Shaq Leonard.
Trading Roxon for Yannick was an awesome
they got
move for
Yannick.
both teams, in my opinion.
Yep, and so far both teams haven't really benefited from that. Rocky's been injured, and Yannick hasn't been playing very well either. So the only bright spot for the Colts is that division. The AFC South is pretty open.
Wide open.
Really, the Jaguars and the Titans are going to make a push. The Titans are, it's hard to watch the Titans, really.
I'll take the Jags over the Titans.
I agree. I think the Jaguars are more explosive, and their defense has played really well.
They have more momentum.
I'm very big on Trevor Lawrence, too.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence has been really good. All right, so that's our disappointing teams. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our breakout performers so far, so some of the best sleeper players so far this season.
The exponential growth from the program from my first year to my 3rd year now, that's what keeps me coming back and keeps me excited and just like fulfills me as a person.
It's so impressive, and we every time we walk in here, you guys are doing something different. It's great. It's
nothing but opportunities here, and we have sports to cover, we have the equipment.
Because the more ambitious you are, the more opportunities you'll have.
On-the-job training is huge.
You get the hands-on experience.
When someone asks who can do it, you can raise your hand and say, I can do it. So
joining the class was the best decision I ever made.
All right, welcome back. As we're going to go over some of the breakout players so far, I'll start it off. At quarterback, a big surprise for me is Geno Smith. So it is early, and again, this could be a little bit of a recency bias. His schedule has not been great, but I don't think anyone in the right mind would believe that through a month of football, Geno Smith would be a better quarterback than Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And it's shown. Although they're both 2-2, clearly the Seahawks are way worse on paper than the Broncos. So the Seahawks have been overperforming, and the Broncos have been underperforming. I think the Seahawks, a lot of teams had them at maybe 2 wins on the season, and they're already at 2 wins through a quarter of the way of the year. Geno Smith is the #1 quarterback in completion percentage at 77%. He's top 10 in passing yards and touchdowns, and is also 3rd in quarterback rating. Geno has shown flashes in the past with the Jets, but he's really been a backup quarterback for the last 5 years. And this, like I said, the Seahawks were projected to be one of the worst teams, and now they're technically 1st in their division, although with all NFC teams tied, the Niners and the Rams. I mean, the Niners have the push because they beat a divisional opponent, but they're all 2-2. At receiver, I have Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk got a bag this summer, and a lot of people were like, why did he get paid that much money? He screwed up the market. So a bunch of receivers are making a crazy amount of money. But Kirk he's been really good. Him and Trevor Lawrence have made a great tandem. Kirk has 370 yards and 3 touchdowns through 4 games, which is pretty spectacular. No one really would expect that going into the season as a 2nd or 3rd option in Arizona. And my last one, defensive back, specifically a safety, Talanoa Hufanga. The Niners struck gold with their 2021 fifth-round pick out of USC. Hufanga, I mean, analysts and experts across the NFL media are calling him Baby Palomalu, and you can see it on the field. He's blitzing off the edge, and he's already had 2 interceptions on the season, including that game-sealing 57-yard pick six last night against the Rams.
Yes, sir.
He's top 15 in the NFL in tackles for loss. He's been blowing up running backs in the backfield. And Jimmy Ward practiced for the first time today. Hufanga and Jimmy Ward in the backfield are going to lead the charge for another stifling Niners defense this year.
He's going to be on some Head and Shoulder commercials in the future.
Yeah, I'm about to say the head of hair, man.
Yeah.
It reminds you of Palomalu. And I agree with the 49ers. Their defense is, I think that's going to be the best in the league by the time they get like halfway.
Yep.
And for me, my third breakout player is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mm-hmm. I am loving everything that I'm seeing from this man.
Yeah.
It's insane. The man has 3 touchdowns so far throughout 4 weeks, and he got hurt, so he didn't play last week. But throughout those 3 games that he did play, he has 253 yards for 23 receptions, which is very, very productive for a Lions team that should have more wins, in my opinion, than it does.
Yep. A lot of close games.
I feel like obviously he's the go-to wide receiver for them, which makes him probably a target for defenses to like either double team. But I think he can get it done. I think he's very, very productive for this team, and I think that he can get it done for sure. And then my second player is Lamar Jackson. I feel like if he's on this trajectory, the way he keeps going, he's going to win MVP.
Yep.
And the Ravens will have to pay him at least $300 million at the very least, because why not? I mean, the man has given you everything, and I feel like if they don't value him the way that they should, they're going to lose him. And I feel like his career might be like. The team that he's on right now, I feel like that's the best place for him. So I feel like the Ravens should sign him. The man has 893 yards, 4 interceptions, and 11 touchdowns so far. He's stellar right now. I'm really riding high on Lamar. And then my number 1 breakout player is Jalen Hurts. I did not think he was going to play this well this early with this team. The Eagles team that was put together over the offseason before the season started looked very good on paper. Yep. I wasn't expecting him to be this good. This man has 1,120 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. He's playing solid, lights out, and they're undefeated, mainly because of his productivity and how good that defense is. So Jalen Hurts, number 1, Lamar Jackson, number 2, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 3.
I'm gonna start my list off with someone you had, Lamar Jackson. Again, I'm an Action Jackson guy, but if you were gonna tell me he would be the top quarterback, and having an MVP season again, I don't know, because that receiver room to me, it's missing a number 1. Even when Hollywood Brown was there, Hollywood Brown to me was. I always compare it to Alshon Jeffrey, where he's not a real number 1, but he can play it.
He's a better slot receiver to have.
Exactly.
He's not a deep
so
player.
like
He's
even
like a Lockett.
So even that, and he has Mark Andrews. We're not disrespecting here. Mark Andrews is 1 or 2, however you decide. But I was just surprised because, and also to kind of getting J.K. Dobbins back helped out a little bit.
Yes.
And as it showed on Sunday, 893 yards, 11 TDs, 4 INTs, 105.1 QBR. I mean. I'm agreeing with you. He's on his way to him and Jalen Hurts battling for MVP. Unless someone just comes out of the woodworks, that is as of right now. I'm gonna go for my second player. I'm gonna go runner. I'm gonna go Nick Chubb, and here's why.
Okay.
I cut Nick Chubb on my fantasy team 2 weeks into his rookie season, and since then he's been haunting my nightmares in fantasy and in real life. This guy is the number 1 back in the league right now with 459 yards. He has 5 touchdowns, which is only second to Jamal Williams, which is a crazy stat. Jamal Williams has 6.
Surprised he didn't make any of our lists.
I wanted to, but it was close.
I had the other Detroit player.
Yeah, it was close. And then the other thing, 81 attempts. He leads the NFL, and he's
with the Kareem Hunt in the backfield as well.
He's making good use of those attempts, and he's showing. So I got Nick Chubb, and I think he's going to keep going too. I don't know about MVP because of the Jalen Hurts Lamar, but I'll call him a dark horse if he can sneak in there. For me, the wide receiver was a little different because it's obvious we know how good he is. I put Tyreek Hill though because I look at Tyreek Hill as a really good receiver. I don't look at him as the number 1 in the league. I just don't. So for him to do that now, going to a Dolphins team, he supposedly he downgraded from Mahomes to go to Tua.
He downgraded.
Yeah.
I'm a big Tua guy. I don't think he downgraded that much, but whatever.
It's hard not to downgrade when you leave Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many quarterbacks that are better than Mahomes.
I agree. So coming in, we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Right.
He's been stellar. I think he's the top receiver in the league as of today. 477 yards, only 2 touchdowns. I think that TD number will go up eventually. But, I mean, him and Waddle, to me, are a dynamic duo. Might be the best 1-2 punch. We can debate that another day. But, yeah, I'm going to put Hill there because, like I said, for me, he's always in that top 5, but he's not that number 1. And this season, he's showing that. And I'm hoping the rest of the season he can be that number 1 for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully Teddy can get him the ball and he can stay on this pace.
Yeah.
Teddy 2 gloves.
I like Teddy. I just don't know how much or how far he can go.
Yeah. And it's tough with Tua because that injury, he may be fine and clear concussion protocols in a week or 2, but how far is he going to be able to go without having these symptoms every week? It's
we don't have enough time.
It's tough. It's so difficult because he's been really good, and he was going to make my breakout performer list because a lot of people were sleeping on Tua. All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you all for watching here on the Solano College Sports Network. My name is Cameron Harrison, Blake Molina, Garrison Glenn. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you next time.